10 years ago, we got our JCO children's home opened. And in the years before that, we were raising money, renovating the building, and getting everything ready. Once we got it renovated, we wanted to raise money to take care of 10 kids for a year before we moved them in there so that we could be prepared. And that took a lot of work. Once we got it done, time came, we're gonna open the home. So I went to Kenya about 3 months before we planned to open the home. And that was the busiest 3 months of my life. Like, Mrs. Opat, Patrick, her nephew, and I were just running around crazy. We were negotiating furniture prices, we were buying mattresses and pillows and blankets and toothbrushes and all the things you need. We were writing policies for the home. We were training staff. We were finding out which kids, the first 10 kids that were gonna move in, going and visiting them and interviewing and deciding. So it was a lot of work. So then the time finally comes, the day is the kids are gonna move in. About 2 p.m. the kids were supposed to move in, so we had been working all morning. I had to run to the village 2 different times because we didn't have electricity and we had to print off forms. So I'm like running to the village, I'm sitting, I have my head down, walking really fast, just thinking, we've got to do this, we still have to do this, all the things. And then I hear my name and I look up, and on the road, 3 of the kids that are coming to move into our home are running towards me and saying, Sarah. Got their little bags with them and huge smiles on their faces and gave me these huge hugs. And it was a really big aha moment, because I had just been full speed ahead, accomplished this mission. And you get to a point where you forget why you're doing it, and it was just this beautiful moment of like, okay, this is why we're here. This is why we're doing this. All the exhaustion and stress just melted away. And it was really beautiful. It helped me like really get present into the awesome thing we were doing. So that's a story I will never forget, a moment I will never forget. And later that day, the kids all move in, everybody gets there around 2 or 3. We fill out forms, we show them their new beds and their new rooms, and everybody eats dinner together, and we tuck them all in their beds. And everyone's kind of giggling and nervous and excited, and we're walking around kissing everybody on the forehead and saying goodnight. And then I just kind of stepped back and realized that the gravity of what we're doing. Like we have now taken these 10 children into our lives, and we've promised to do everything for them. Like we're now completely responsible for these 10 people. And while I knew that was the case before, it's an awesome responsibility. I mean, it's a lot. And I was excited about the responsibility, but it was also really humbling. Like, okay, Mrs. Opat and I have now dedicated our lives to this, and these little people are counting on us. And it was pretty awesome, but overwhelming for a 30-year-old just trying to figure this out. Since then, I've gone back about every 6 months. So I've gotten to see the kids go through lots of changes and help the staff kind of deal with what we were doing. Because the first couple years, and especially the first year, was really rocky. We have 10 kids that are coming from chaotic and sometimes mostly traumatic situations, and they're coming in there, they all don't know each other. The staff doesn't really know what they're doing because this is their first time to do it. We're trying to just figure out what we're doing, and we had written policies that in theory sounded great, in practice did not work. So we had to just kind of adjust and move through it. One of our big picture goals from the beginning was that we wanted the place to be run like an institution, but to feel like a home. So we want the kids to just feel like they're at home. But we also, we need policies and we need all these things. And so we'd actually been able to do that. And these kids consider their siblings as their family. We've had very little staff turnover. And so the same people have been taking care of them their whole lives at this point. And so we've really built this beautiful family. And what the most surprising thing to me was the kids themselves and how they have responded to the situation. Like I thought our first 10 kids got really close, and I was a little worried when we first were bringing in new kids that they maybe wouldn't welcome them or they would feel threatened, or I just had no idea what to expect. But it was the complete opposite. I mean, they're just really welcoming, showing them where the toys are, telling them the rules, all these things. And it was really neat to see that what we had done had worked, because one kid would come in, we'd have, 2 siblings come in, and like those 10 kids were already settled, the staff is settled, so it just was such an easier transition than those first 10, than us figuring it out. But the kids are the biggest source of that. I mean, the staff does an incredible job for sure, but like the kids like buying into it. I mean, we're all just this big family, and they feel loved and they feel this unconditional support, and it's really neat to see.
So I made my first trip to Kenya in December of 2012. And the first trip was about 6 weeks. And on that first trip, I spent a lot of time with Mrs. Opat, who sometimes spoke to me as if I was courting her daughter, which was a little bit intimidating at times. I also got to know the staff at the JCO pretty well and spent a lot of time playing games and soccer with the kids, taught some of them how to play chess. And since that time, I've been back to Kenya 6 or 7 times over the past 8 years.
So I was coming, every 6 months, spending good time with the kids, and every single time I would come, the children, every single child is happier, brighter, healthier, they're doing better in school, they're just overall doing much, much better. But it took me a while to really accept that that was our kind of permanent reality. I thought maybe it was just anecdotal or they were just happy, and so I knew our home was working, but I didn't know if our dream and our vision was actually a long-term lasting thing that would work. But about the 5-year mark, I came and our staff, everything just ran so seamlessly. That's not to say we don't have disciplinary problems with children, because they're kids, these are humans we're dealing with, but it just ran just beautifully. And it's just the kids were having such long-term benefits. I mean, they were just starting to thrive. And I realized that it actually works. I was actually at the 5-year mark, like, we're doing this. Like, you can take children, because I thought, hopefully you can take children from this, chaotic, traumatic situation and put them into a consistent, loving home, and that's what they need to heal. I mean, it doesn't just immediately happen. Everyone has their journey and different kind of trajectories, but like, that's how you heal these kids. That's what they need, and it actually works, Somewhere around the 5-year mark, I had a conversation with David Williams. He was the former executive director of Ozark Guidance, and he's been a big supporter of Restore Humanity and what we're doing. And I sat down with him and I just said, is there something else I can be learning? We're in a rural village, so we don't have just child psychiatrists or trauma counselors. It's really hard to find trained people. So I just thought, is there something I can learn, or things I can be reading that I can train the staff? Is there, what can we do? And he just looked at me and said, you're already doing it. He said, kids are really resilient. They really just need consistency and love and support, and that's what you're doing. And it was really awesome. It's just to hear from that, because I'm seeing it work, but I'm like, what else can we do? And you always want to be able to do more, and you want to fix all the problems, but just being there for them and that consistency day in and day out is what they need, and we've seen it really works. One of the reasons that our home works so well is because of our staff. And as I said, we have really low staff turnover. And a really big reason for that is because of Mrs. Opat, who I also call Madde, who's my partner. She is a phenomenal manager. And she's not just a great leader, she's like a village elder. All of the women that work for us constantly come to her with marriage problems or any other issues they're having, and they need her advice. I mean, people do this from the village. It's like a constant stream of people coming to ask her questions. But our staff specifically see her as this mother figure and go to her for help. And she's done such a great job at building this like cohesive community of our staff. And so our staff also now supports each other. So these women have found not only a job, but then they've found this community that's there and helps and supports them. And so it's a really neat thing. So over the years of having our home, we've had kids graduate, we've had new kids move in. Our family's just been expanding, and it's been awesome. And they're all doing great. But as we started getting closer to the 10-year mark, Boo and I started thinking about this in a counterfactual way. Like, where would these kids have been if the JCO home didn't exist, or if Restore Humanity didn't exist? We started thinking, really, what would their lives be like? And of course, we can't know every single thing, but we know enough about their lives and enough about like their family situation and how things were to where we have a pretty good guess about where they would be, and a best case and worst case scenarios. So we know some of our kids would not be alive right now. There's a couple of children that when they came to us, they were like close to death, and with the hospital stay, and then now, they've been living with us for years and getting good, consistent care, and now you would never tell that these children ever had any health issues. And that's kind of the same with, we have multiple kids that are HIV positive, and when they moved in, it was obvious that they were not well. And now, if you walked in our home right now, you would not be able to pick out one of them. Like, they're healthy, they're bright, they're happy, and so that's a really awesome thing. We also had a girl from our first 10 kids who had a severe limp, and it came from a wound that had just festered, and the infection just kept spreading, and it spread into her bone. And so she moved in with us. Her grandmother did the best she could for her, but when she moved in with us, we took her to a hospital in Kisumu, met with the doctor, and he said that, yes, the infection had spread into the bone, but because of her age, if we can get an operation to cut that part of the bone out, then with growth spurts, she can actually grow out of this, which was awesome. So we got the operation. It was a lot of kind of years of therapy, but now she's a grown woman, beautiful. You'd never have any idea there was anything that she went through like that. And if she wouldn't have moved in with us, she would have been crippled for the rest of her life. And that's just one part of her story. She's also been able to excel in school, do great in high school. She's going to go to university. I mean, she's an incredible young woman. And so it's like, when we really just started looking at all of their stories and taking just piece by piece, it was just, we'd realize what we've done, And some kids, it might have just been opportunity in education. A lot of them wouldn't even been able to finish primary school, let alone go to high school because it's so expensive, and definitely not university or any post-secondary stuff. So just those opportunities wouldn't have been there for them. So it's pretty neat to witness and be able to see this, And these kids become leaders in their communities. I mean, we've already seen it. It's not just something we want to happen. Like, this is not a pipe dream anymore. Like, our kids that are graduating university they have their goals and things they want to do, but one of their big goals is to help their community. And they come back and they want to work with Restore Humanity and help. They have just these huge hearts for wanting to help other people. So this is how we change the world, one person at a time. We give quality care to a small amount of people, and this is how we change it. And it's really neat to see that, just be able to witness it, be able to see like they're the future, they're the ones that are going to change the world, and it really does make a big difference.
The thing that stands out to me in my experience in the village with the children at the JCO Children's Home is that I've been witness to some really miraculous development. Not just in the sense that, like, when you leave one time, they have like squeaky voices and they're shorter than you, and then they're really tall with real deep voices when you come back, but improvements in their mental and emotional health, their changes in attitude and maturity, their academic improvement has been, in many cases, nothing short of miraculous. And so, and the thing that I really would like people to understand about that is that that's Made or Mrs. Opat and the staff that she's been able to assemble that's really accomplished that. Sarah and I get to show up once or twice a year, and we're greeted like the cool aunt and uncle that have brought the amazing Christmas presents that everybody's excited about. But in the children's day-to-day lives, it's Mrs. Opat and our staff that cleans their clothes and prepares their meals and helps them with their homework. And so while Sarah and I facilitate by fundraising here, Mrs. Opat and our staff are really kind of the gas in the tank that make all of this work.
Pretty much every trip that I've gone to Kenya over the last 13 years, so Mrs. Opat and I've been working together for 13 years, and at least once a trip, we end up sitting down together. And it could be maybe we've been dealing with an issue with a kid, or a kid did something really incredible and we're proud, but we start talking and remembering what these kids look like when they got here, the situations that they were in, and the miraculous transformations that they've had. And we just talk about how bizarre it is that all these different things came together to bring us together to make this happen. And no matter how many times we talk about it, it's just, we're both still filled with kind of wonderment that, like, we've been doing the work, but so many things had to come together for this to happen. And it's just been really incredible. And usually the conversation ends with a common Luo phrase, Nasai Ber, and that just means God is good. And that's really all you can say.